This is Queued Up, where we amplify the voices of educators with the science, soul, and story shaping education. Welcome to Queued Up. We have Julie Weatherly, and she is an attorney, a special education attorney, and that is her focus. And she has so much experience. She has been on 60 Minutes and been sharing her knowledge across the nation. So we are happy to have you here.
Thank you very much.
It's exciting that I'm kind of like talking to a celebrity, but on 60 Minutes.
No, that was fun. I would say, yeah, I learned a lot about being on the set. Lady Light, which I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
So, Leslie Stahl informed me that they had to get the light just right, bright enough on us to keep the wrinkles from, looking bad.
We got great guys.
Powder in my nose.
We got great guys for the wrinkles, but we could probably talk all day about wrinkles.
Yeah, we could.
You are an attorney. How did you get into the special education side?
Well, I've been around for quite some time. Almost 40 years now, doing this work on behalf of schools and representing them strictly in the area of educating students with disabilities. And really, I just feel fortunate that I fell into it, because when I went to law school, the University of Georgia, and graduated from there, I thought I was going to be a corporate tax attorney because that's the only A I made in law school. So that's where I figured my path must be, corporate tax. And I interviewed with some corporate tax law firms and wasn't terribly interested with the people necessarily. I kind of found them a little snoozy. And I thought, oh, that's not for me, but I might have to do it. And then I interviewed with a law firm, very small law firm outside of Atlanta, Decatur, Georgia, that represented the largest school district at the time, DeKalb County Schools. And they were under siege with special ed litigation because in 1986, that's when it was all really gearing up.
Okay.
And so actually I feel very fortunate that we were just making the law as we were going along with our cases and making arguments based on what we thought the statute meant and the regulations. And over many, many years, it has all evolved to where we are today. And I feel really fortunate. And I really wanted to do it because I had no idea that there was a federal law out there, but I had worked with students with disabilities for years in my youth through Special Olympics and Girl Scouts.
So you always had that pull, that
I did. I was thrilled. I couldn't say yes soon enough when they told me that that's what they were looking for.
So has your focus been the school district side, or have you ever?
It's always been school district side.
Okay.
I will tell you that I probably these days get more calls from parents, probably on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I get about 5, 6, 7 calls. My assistant's always, phoning me. What do you want me to tell the parent? You have to stop them in their tracks. Don't let them tell their story.
Yeah.
Because we represent school districts, and I really can't do both sides.
Yeah.
Can't risk making bad law for a client or anything like that. So it's really picking up, too, in terms of the calls we're getting.
Oh, I am sure. I see all the time in parent groups that people are saying, do you know a good attorney? And some of it's rightfully so.
Yeah.
Things are happening that parents need
Absolutely.
to advocate for their child.
Well, we would be naive if we said otherwise.
Right. It's different. It really is. I started my career in 96 in special education.
Okay.
And it has evolved.
Yes.
Say that. Yes. It has evolved.
Yes. Let's say that.
On the litigation side, it has evolved.
Yeah.
So when you work with schools, do you see teachers more afraid of breaking the law or just not being able to meet the kids' needs?
Well, of course, when I am meeting with teachers, we're always talking about the law.
Yeah.
But my guess is it's either equal or more stress related in terms of their ability to do what they really want to do for their kids.
Yes.
Because again, we're so limited, staffing, just resources and that kind of thing. And so, as funds become less probable, I think the stress of not being able to meet the needs is sort of an equal thing.
Yes, I am sure it is.
Yeah, I think that they don't think about the law all day, every day. So I have to be very careful when I'm doing my professional development, not to scare them off.
Right.
Because I think
There she comes again.
Yeah, I think it's kind of, the legal stuff just flipped me over the side because I'm worried enough as it is about being able to meet the needs now. all this compliance stuff I have to worry about. So
I am sure that puts you, representing districts in a precarious position of how do we make this happen?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Even more so today.
100%. So you've trained thousands of teachers on IDEA.
Yes.
And what's one thing that you feel like teachers think they understand what it means, but they don't really?
I think they struggle a lot with all the paperwork compliance concerns. So most often when I'm asked to talk with teachers, it's do's and don'ts of IEP development. And I think they struggle with that the most in terms of all of the details of the law itself, all the compliance concerns from process of your meetings to paperwork burdens. And I think they don't understand how burdensome it is until they actually get into it.
Yeah. And, I had a boss years ago that did a really great job. Before I met her, I was a special education teacher, and I understood an IEP, but I didn't know that it's it's a living, breathing document.
Yes, it
And
is.
she took the information and she said, present level drives your goals. Your goals drive your related services. After all, she taught us.
Yes.
She taught us what each of those sections meant and why we needed them. And once she did that, I felt like I became a better IEP writer and making sure that the whole team was considering all of the elements. Do you see that?
Sure. And I think that's awesome when schools take the initiative to make sure teachers understand that. From a compliance perspective, I'm not certainly any kind of subject expert. I don't know how to write an IEP. It's not my deal. But I can tell the teachers about the kinds of things that I see in the court cases that are common challenges. And one of them is just what you described, not linking everything together.
Yeah.
And once they understand that, I see much better IEPs, present levels,
Yes.
that kind of thing, from a content perspective. Although I don't judge content, I just know what the challenges are frequently. And I know the parent attorneys well enough to know what they're going to go at.
You know what they're going to say. You're like, oh, this one didn't have enough
Is
of
that
the words.
present level really present?
Full. Yes. And, I think that you can have good intentions and still not be doing what's best.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. I see that every day.
Yeah. And I think about my IEPs that I wrote before I had the knowledge, and then the IEPs I wrote afterwards, that they were a world of difference. I mean, couldn't even compare them.
Well, and when you say doing your best, I give a lot of grace there because it's why I do what I do. Because I do believe that most every teacher of special needs kids is doing their best.
They're trying.
I occasionally will meet some that are burned out and too stressed out and probably need to find something else to do. But for the most part, I represent clients that really care and do good things.
Yes.
That's what I've always enjoyed about what I do.
That's one of the reasons I love being able to do this podcast, is because there are amazing educators out there doing really, really tough jobs. And I love being able to highlight and talk about, what people are doing.
Absolutely.
So I also had a question about, we hear stay compliant. That's some of it. Well, we got to be in compliance. I'm sure you deal with that a lot. And what does it actually mean in a random classroom to stay compliant?
Well, that's a good question. I should be able to answer that in 1 minute or less, but it's really hard to do since a workshop is usually a whole day.
Yes.
But generally, overall, I tend to stress the focus on both process in IEP development and content in IEP development, because process is just as important. Sometimes compliance is not that significant if you can use a good process for developing an IEP that affords parents meaningful opportunity to participate so that they feel like a member of the team and you're building your relationship.
Yeah. So there's value there.
Yeah. And I focus on that so much. in terms of when people ask me what's the best way to stay out of what I call deep doo-doo process, I generally will say compliance comes in second. And number one is looking at a process that builds the number one thing you need to be concerned with, and that's relationships. Because parents are less likely to be focused on compliance issues when they feel comfortable in terms of the team that they're working with and that the team has the best interest of their child in mind.
Yes, that connectedness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I I recently was talking to somebody and I said, I never really had parents angry at me. And when I think back to all the years I did that, because I came from a sister perspective, I had a brother that had disabilities and I watched my parents walk through things. And so one of the first things I would do is say, Mom, Dad, you're the expert in your child. And I need you to teach me everything you know about them.
Oh, yes.
And
absolutely.
that I think
It can
was
go so far.
Oh, and I think that connectedness, because they knew, I might have to call them and say, hey, I messed up on this, but they had grace for me because I said, you were the one teaching me, and it worked.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
have to have that piece of it.
Yep.
Before we continue, this episode is sponsored by Q360 Workforce Solutions. If you're a leader listening, you already know the problem. Q360 helps districts get ahead of the staffing and support gaps. This isn't about looking good on paper, it's about keeping schools steady. All right, back to the conversation. So when teachers, when they mess up a procedural step, like miss a deadline or forget a form, how do they make it right without panicking?
Well, I always tell teachers that those procedural aspects of things are important. We want to dot our I's and cross our T's to the best of our ability. But oftentimes what they need to be concerned with is how does it educationally impact the student? Mm-hmm. Because that's where it will all boil down to whether there's some sort of compliance issue that necessitates a remedy. Because courts are very clear that the procedural stuff, while it is important, and there could be, from the state level, some corrected action, something that they've got to do, teacher training, whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, did it really deny a child free, appropriate public education? And more often than not, a lot of the procedural aspects don't. So they don't really deny FAPE because there was no educational harm to the student or any denial of meaningful opportunity for parents to participate. So I try as best I can when I'm talking to teachers to tell them that, but I also have to balance that with, but please make sure to do the best you can, but don't worry about it. And if you do have something that you know that was incorrect, own up to it as soon as you can.
Let them know.
Because sometimes it's like, I'm so afraid the parents are going to find out. I'm like, they will, because you're going to tell them.
Oh, good point. Yeah, and if you don't, they will certainly find out. I have a question. I had been told in my career, especially early on, that most of the court cases are won on technicalities of deadlines and things like that. So I'm wondering if my person was just scare tacting us into meeting our deadlines.
Maybe so. Now, I will tell you at the state level, when there's a state complaint filed, that is usually the case.
Okay.
But in a court case, judges, this is why I prefer to be in a courtroom or with a hearing officer, because the law basically says that's not necessarily a denial of FAPE. It will be a violation of IDEA for not following procedure.
Sure.
That's state level.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily constitute a denial of FAPE. So I think it was a scare tactic.
I think you're right. It worked. Yeah. I was terrified to miss my deadlines. I've got to.
And deadlines can be problematic.
Yes.
Because valuations that aren't timely, whatever deadlines are, failure to have an annual review could impact and be what I call FAPE fatal.
Yes.
Because the student was deprived some sort of educational opportunity, and that might necessitate compensatory services or something like that.
Sure. And there's also a difference between missing a deadline and missing it by a week because some circumstances, and missing a deadline by 5 years.
Well, deadlines were a huge thing when COVID school closures happened.
Yes.
Teachers were so freaked out.
Yeah.
because they weren't able to have their IEP team meetings on time and annual reviews that they're obsessed with.
Yes.
And
and evaluations. You couldn't evaluate the student because nobody could get together.
And I actually took it upon myself to make sure every chance I got to make it clear to folks that just do the best you can. In light of these circumstances, I think we'll have some grace. Just do the best you can.
And I feel like we kind of dug out of that a little bit. It for a while we were so far behind on paperwork and things, and we're digging out. Yeah. But I think it's difficult right now because of the shortages. So everybody has more work. And I know I talk to teachers a lot, and they are afraid of that because they can't figure out how to get all of those things done. And they have this fear of we're not providing what we're supposed to because we don't have enough staff. What would you say to that person?
Well, I could only be sympathetic.
Yeah.
Say I completely understand, but I don't because I'm not in their shoes.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone's pretty overwhelmed in all areas trying to recover from COVID. So, I tell teachers, keep yourselves healthy.
Yeah.
Your kids depend on it, and you do the best you can.
So what are the courts saying when we have major shortages?
Yeah.
Do we have any court cases that have?
Well, when you have major shortages, I always have to wonder, what's the court going to do about that? The courts can't create people out of the air.
Yes.
So there was a fairly recent lawsuit that's been filed against one of the largest school districts in the country, and they have significant staffing shortages. Mm. Well, so what's the lawsuit going to do?
Right.
With that?
It's not going to solve that.
Yeah, it was disheartening to actually see that because, I do believe, because I'm experiencing it alongside all of my clients, that there truly is a massive staffing shortages. We've always had them. Yeah, it's worse worse than ever now. So what's a lawsuit going to do to help that? It's really just going to fund a lot of lawyers' pockets. Bothers me. Maybe there's something I'm not seeing. There will be some benefit there. Maybe behind the scenes, the school district hasn't been recruiting enough or making the efforts, but my guess is they have.
Absolutely. And I when I started my career, my second year of teaching, I wanted to go back to my home school, and it was a school that people wanted to teach in.
Yeah.
And I applied. They had one special education teacher opening, and they had 200 and some applicants.
Whoa, those were the good old days.
And I got it. I was the one at the end of the day.
What an honor.
I was like, I had accomplished something big. But the reality is we might, I'm sure we have 200 and some holes in the state, pick a state.
Sure.
And no applicants.
Yeah.
So it has really shifted. And I just wondered, like you said, what are the courts going to do about it?
Yeah.
You can't create people.
And no, what are they going to do? Order the school district? I don't know. Maybe we'll turn to AI bots.
Well, I do think that's going to start
probably
coming in.
will.
So it'll be interesting to see how the litigation goes with that. Mm-hmm. Are they going to count that as special education minutes? Is that going to
I don't know.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's believe you me, I've always had these interesting feelings about these new wave things going on and scary, but I have to take myself back to the fact that I started when IEPs were written out in longhand.
Oh, I was sharing that with somebody. I said, my colleagues laugh when when I tell them I had to write my IEPs with my handwriting.
In triplicate.
We didn't even have that. We would write it, and then we would send it over to central office, and somebody would type it up and send it back, and we would make corrections. And it would go back, and we still had to meet the deadline. So we have to time it because she had many IEPs she was typing.
Yeah, interesting. That's funny. Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting to see how things change over the next several years with AI, with the shortages that we have, and what litigation, the rulings that come down that impact that.
Yeah, absolutely. We've already had a few AI rulings, but not in terms of, in some respects, one that's out of the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals recently was the overuse of AI with a student. And the family filed because when he graduated from high school with a 3.4 grade point average, he couldn't read or write his own name. And it was because they over accommodated with AI. And so the teachers weren't really teaching the reading skills that he needed and the writing skills, obviously. And so that's already become a semi sort of problem.
Yeah. So in a case like that, they ruled in the family's favor.
Oh, yes.
Happened?
Lots of COVID.
I was going to say, so what was the remedy in that?
Compensatory education, some private one-to-one tutoring. But the family also sought money damages for intentional discrimination. I don't know if that's been I think it was dismissed in the initial court. I don't think intentional discrimination is going to fly in that case.
I would assume they were over supporting and not realizing it.
Correct. So now lessons learned on that one.
Yes. And I say this all the time, but when we use supports, we always need exit plans on supports too. Yes. And we don't think about that often. And so that's how you get in those situations. You over support and you forget to pull them back as the student's learning.
Exactly. Yeah. Apparently he was doing good work, but not without ChatGPT and Grammarly and all kinds of things that the court pointed out.
Well, my spelling stinks now.
Well, yeah,
because I don't have to.
Get lazy.
I don't. And my phone checks it for me. Yeah. I don't remember how to spell that word. I'll just put a few letters in and it works. Yeah. So I can see, I obviously had the knowledge base, so I could see how that would be a detriment to a student.
Of course.
Yeah. So when something goes wrong legally, and what pattern do you see again and again that a teacher could do differently up front?
Well, I've mentioned a lot of them. That relationship piece and working that is so important.
Yes.
Just returning phone calls and just that good rapport with parents is so significant. But also, I like teachers who are very interested in good professional development, educating themselves.
Stay relevant. Yeah, that makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Keeping up with the trends, going to a few legal workshops here and there, though they may not be pleasant. I like to focus on hot topics and let teachers know what the current vibes are in terms of the things they need to be on the lookout for. Being preventive in nature.
Yes. And I always really enjoyed the law conferences.
Yeah.
Because it was intriguing to me. Coming from the family background, I could usually understand where a family was coming from. And then I've loved just hearing how it played out and then the implications of that. So. Yeah. I might have been a little bit of a nerd, though. I don't know. Yeah. Because I don't know that.
And I'm doing on. But I don't know.
We're in good company.
A lot of people will come up to me and they'll say, I'm so glad I came today. I'm just kind of a legal nerd and I love the law stuff. I'm like, thank goodness somebody does.
Yeah. But it is interesting. And it's interesting how much it shapes what we do.
Sure. Absolutely.
I did not understand that at the beginning of my career.
Well, you had no way to know that.
Mm-mm.
A lot of teachers go into it and have no earthly idea that all these legal requirements dictate generally what they do.
Yes. And I'm so thankful for it because of IDEA, kids now get access that they didn't have before.
Right.
So there's so much good that comes out of it. And then there's so much angst for teachers and school officials that come out of it as well. So it's striking that balance to realize that it is good. Mm-hmm. Rulings are good. Yeah. Helps define things for us.
I mean, I started my profession with not a whole lot of information on how to interpret certain things.
Sure.
And fortunately now we've got decades of legal authority to help with that. So
5 decades, 50th year, right?
Truly.
Yeah.
I've been around for 40 of them. So that's pretty scary.
I'm sure it has changed drastically too.
Yeah, it has. Certainly in terms of what the issues are. For sure.
Yeah. I think families they're being challenged with things that we never dreamed they would be challenged with 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I just think of the way I'm glad that when my kids were being raised, social media wasn't that prevalent. So you throw something like that and you have a child with a disability that's being bullied, through social media and things. I mean, like the world, it's changed. Mm-hmm. It's all changed, and families face a lot.
I never would have dreamed what kind of things I'd be dealing with.
I'm sure.
Some of them are enough for me to decide, I've been at this a long time.
Hopefully it's no time soon.
Well, I love what I do, so it's hard, but I only want to continue as long as I'm meaningfully helpful.
Yes.
And I have the joy of being very connected with the case group. Mm-hmm. And that has made me feel like I can do some meaningful things that will be helpful. When my feelings change on that,
then time.
Yeah.
To pass the torch.
Yeah. People have been telling me, please don't go. Please don't go.
Well, maybe you'll have to pick somebody to mentor so that you could prepare the next process.
I've got one.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
I've got 2 law partners, and they're very good, but they're inundated with litigation. And in my older years now, I do more of what I really care to do, mm-hmm. which is professional development, training side, keeping people abreast of what they need to be looking out for.
And it goes back to that question, what would you tell teachers to do? It's being prepared, understanding what you're supposed to be doing, the training, all of that.
Yep.
This, your field is very, very heavily regulated. So how do you keep the empathy alive in the middle of all of that?
Yeah. It's regulated, but there's a lot of leeway. And so I'm going to give it where I can. And I'm very obviously empathetic with teachers and, frankly, parents. Mm-hmm. One of my law partners has a child with a disability. And, she sees both sides of things.
Yes.
Is something that I don't have, but I always remain empathetic both to the family side and to the school folk side. Just to give some grace, because it is so highly regulated that it's to the point where parents are themselves mm-hmm. intimidated by a lot of the procedural aspects that are required by the regulations.
Yes.
The way the law is set up, it's not parent friendly at all. So we have to overcome that and have empathy for them when they go out to get an advocate because of how complicated everything is.
And, I say this all the time, but you might have signed up to get pregnant, but you didn't necessarily sign up to learn a whole law and how that impacts your child.
Sure.
And so that is a very different thing than what that parent set out on for their journey.
A whole different life.
Yes. And I know they work hard trying to make that make sense.
That's exactly.
So where can educators find your resources, your trainings that you do?
Well, so I do a lot of work with CASE. So join CASE. Boy, you get great discounts on so many good things that they do. Not just my webinars by any means. I try to stay very humble about those because I've been around a long time. I ought to know my stuff, But I hope that that's valuable information. But a lot of the things that they do to support what's going on, particularly special ed administrators who are the ones that lead the way, that's real important. And then teachers joining up with CEC and all those supports, see if they can get their administrator to send them to the convention and pick up good information. It's all out there. It's just a matter of having the time to find it and to get it.
Yes. Well, I appreciate your time with us today. I love the knowledge that you shared, and I really hope you have many, many, many more years left in your career, because I'm just now meeting you and I'm ready to see what's next.
Well, I will say that I feel very fortunate that I stumbled into this. I didn't realize that the practice of law could be so fulfilling. And when I go to law school reunions and such, and I'm still smiling, and some of my friends back in law school aren't really thrilled with what they do, but they're stuck in it.
Yes.
I don't ever feel that way.
You still have the joy.
Yep, because I work with great people.
That is incredible. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. I appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening to Queued Up. Follow and subscribe to stay queued up for what's next.